Hello, welcome to part one of our two-part series on apostrophes. Today we are going to look at the possessive apostrophe. In other words, we're going to look at using that little apostrophe to show possession of a noun. So let's look at the guitar of a bead. It is a bead's guitar. But how do we know that we have to just add an apostrophe S? Well, let's follow the rule. First, we find the owner. The owner is a bead. Then we add the apostrophe. There, we did it. It's done. Then we ask, is it singular? You'll remember that singular means there's only one. And in this case, the answer to the question, is it singular, is yes, it is. And so all we have to do is add an S. Ta-da! We have a bead's guitar. How about the bike of Jonas? It's Jonas's bike. But wait a minute, that looks weird because it says S apostrophe S. It's Jonas's bike. There's got to be a rule there. Let's find out. Here it is. First, as usual, we find the owner. Why? That's Jonas. Then we add the apostrophe. Okay, it's done. And then we ask, is it singular? Why, yes, it is. And so we add an S. So remember, when asking the question, if it's singular, if the answer is yes, then you add an S. So is it singular? Yes. Then we add an S. But what if it's not singular? What if we have more than one noun and we need to show that something belongs to them? For example, the car of my parents. It's my parents' car. Well, here's the rule. You find the owner. That owner is my parents. Then you add the apostrophe. That's easy. And then you ask the question, is it singular? No. Is there an S? Yes. So we don't do anything else. Ta-da! My parents' car. It needs no S. It only needs an apostrophe at the end of parents. What about the boat of the fisherman? Fisherman doesn't end with an S. But we see here that we added an apostrophe S to say it's the fisherman's boats. So here's the rule. Find the owner. Why, that is the fisherman. Then add the apostrophe. Okie doke, that's done. Then you ask, is it singular? No. Is there an S? No. So we need one. Add an S. Hooray! We've got the fisherman's boats. Okay, so now let's take what we know of our rules and practice. First we have Mark, and he has a scarf. So how do we indicate that that scarf belongs to Mark? Who's the owner? Mark. Is Mark singular? Yes. So we add an apostrophe and an S. We've got Jim. He has a jumper. So how do we indicate that the jumper belongs to Jim? Is it singular? Yes. So we add an apostrophe and an S. We've got one dog named Rover, so he's singular and he has one dog lead. So we have an apostrophe S. Jim's jumper, Rover's dog lead. My dad's trousers. Well, I pretty much did that for you, didn't I? Because I added the S there, so you know that all you need to do is put the apostrophe to indicate that those trousers belong to Dad. That school's hockey team. Hold on. Is it one school or many schools? Well, that is a context clue to me to indicate that schools is one school with one hockey team, and so I'm just going to put an apostrophe right there. The boys' coats were filthy. Yikes! We've got a lot of boys, and it ends with an S. And so from what we remember from our rules, we know that we just simply put an apostrophe at the end. The singers' songs were a hit for them. Uh-oh. Are we talking about one singer or two? Well, them is a context clue for me to know that singers are many singers, not just one. And so we simply add an apostrophe at the end. Mr. Stevens' car is blue. I'm sorry, Mrs. Stevens' car is blue. I don't know what color Mr. Stevens' car is, but so Mrs. Stevens' car is blue. Uh-oh, that ends with an S. Mrs. Stevens is one person, though, and so, even though it looks odd, it's an apostrophe S for that. Mr. Jones's hat looks funny. Again, Mr. Jones is one person with one hat, so we add an apostrophe S. The sheep's coat was filthy. The sheep's coat was filthy. Okay, sometimes sheep can be singular and sometimes sheep can be plural. But since I see we're using a singular verb with was, I know that the sheep is one sheep. And so it's one coat for one sheep. And so we have an apostrophe S. The men's suits were gray. Okay, it's a lot of men. And it doesn't end with S. And so since it's more than one man, thus men, and the word men doesn't end with S, we're going to put an apostrophe S. The women's trip was spoilt. Well, there's many women, and they're going on a trip, and they don't end with an S, because we don't say women's. Hey, look at those women's. We don't do that. So we simply add an apostrophe S. A deer's horns grow quickly. A deer's horns grow quickly. Okay, deer is one of those words that can be singular or plural, but A is a context clue for us to know that deer is singular, and so it's an apostrophe S. And that does it for our very first episode of Apostrophes. Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll talk about contractions.